Harry's Wife, part 95.13, The Sustained Devaluation of Prince Harry by the Duchess of Smirk. Hello, I'm H.G. Tudor, helping you understand more about narcissism and the way that it affects people by analysis of famous and infamous people, alongside my various videos taking you through all the different facets of the narcissistic dynamic. You'll be aware that recently in the Netherlands took place the Harry's Wife Games. I do apologise, the Invictus Games, where Harry's wife made sure that it was all about her, showing off her all-in-one white outfit, the coat incident, the attempt to read the bench, which I now understand was usurped by somebody else reading something instead, which will have not gone done well with her at all. One was hoping to learn a little bit about what the competitors might be doing. Apparently there are 500 of them, and one saw them in the background in the footage, walking along, etc. But it would have been interesting to learn a little more about what they were doing and what they were achieving and the various things that were occurring. But instead, all eyes were trained on Harry's wife, just as she likes it. But leaving that aside for a moment, the games did provide us with a little snippet of footage which provides us with an excellent opportunity to understand more about her behaviours. Before we get to the footage, it's important that you recall, or if this is the first time that you've embraced my work, that you understand the nature of the dynamic between a narcissist and the narcissist's victim. Where the narcissist has an intimate partner primary source, husband, wife, boyfriend, girlfriend, partner, cohab, that person is the chief provider of the prime aims. They are the person that is the easiest to control, and they must be controlled. They're the one that provides the most fuel to the narcissist, which essentially is our lifeblood. And if you'd like to understand more about that, read my excellent book, Fuel. This is the person that provides us with character traits and residual benefits, and those four things are what are known as the prime aims. We can obtain the prime aims from lots of different people in our fuel matrices, but the primary source is the most important. Sometimes the primary source is non-intimate, a family member or a friend, but more usually they are of an intimate nature. Prince Harry is the intimate partner primary source to Harry's wife. The dynamic that occurs between the narcissist and the intimate partner primary source follows a particular course. First of all, the individual is drawn in, perhaps as a secondary source through dating or friendship, maybe meeting on a dating site. And then the hanky-panky begins, a bit of spicy poontang is doled out, and that individual becomes an intimate partner secondary source. Where the narcissist, if aware, or the narcissism where an unaware narcissist recognizes that this person is going to be really good for the prime aims, it basically causes the narcissist, or the narcissist is aware of this where it is an aware narcissist, to go hell for leather, to bring that person under control, and invariably doles out what is known as the golden period, where you'll be familiar with the term love bombing. We pull out all of the stops, it's all bells and whistles, etc., as we excite you, mirror you, take interest in what you like, dislike the things that you dislike, tell you everything about you is wonderful, flatter you, buy you gifts, take you places, give you great sex. Not necessarily all of those things will happen, but often they do. And then when you become embedded as the intimate partner primary source, you get more of the golden period. But there are dark skies ahead. Without fail. Always, this always happens, you'll be devalued, and you enter what is known as the sustained devaluation. The golden period with a narcissist invariably lasts somewhere between 6 to 18 months, sometimes shorter, sometimes longer, when you're the intimate partner primary source. And I explain elsewhere why the narcissist moves to devaluation, so why the narcissist devalues you is a video you need to watch, and I won't cover that here. The point is, the length of the relationship that Prince Harry has had with Harry's wife is such that they're now in the sustained devaluation. There are lots of pieces of evidence that support that. The way that she physically controls him, the grip of doom that we've witnessed, the way that she steers him with that hand on the back, the way that she talks for him, interrupts him, has taken him away from family and friends, ostracizing them from those perceived adverse influences upon her need to control him. There will, of course, be many devaluing behaviours that we are not aware about, that are taking place behind closed doors. Cold shouldering, silent treatments, sexual withdrawal, belittlement, insult, triangulation with object, triangulation with person, possibly even physical violence. Shouting, argumentativeness, word salad, circular conversations. As a mid-range narcissist, there's a fairly wide range of manipulations that Harry's wife will deploy, and many of them will go on behind closed doors. The point is, Harry is in the sustained devaluation, and we've seen plenty of instances of this. However, this is being driven home now with this short piece of footage, which I'm going to play in a moment. I'm going to allow the footage to play several times without any commentary to begin with, so that you can appreciate what's going on, watch it several times, and form your own views about what's going on in light of what I've just said. So, here comes the footage. Interesting, no? Now, what does this footage tell us? Well, first of all, it's not beyond the realm of possibility that this was actually footage that was staged for the purposes of the Netflix documentary. Given the fact that in order to try and generate some interest, this documentary about a very boring, vapid individual and her lapdog isn't really going to set the world alight, although, of course, she believes that it will. And Netflix really do need to recoup on the ridiculous amount of money that's been thrown at these two. Therefore, they're going to have to use some sharp editing and maybe sort of create events. And I know, for instance, that some people have suggested that Coat Woman was a setup for the purposes of the Netflix film, and that might be the case. Here, this moment that has been captured might also be something that has been generated for the Netflix documentary. You can almost hear it now. Hushed tones as the narrator says, Harry is nervous about how the games will go, but a reassuring hand and smile from his wife, the Duchess of Sussex, calms his nerves. And of course they've suggested to Harry, you look a bit down at heel, look a bit nervous, and Harry's wife, you reassure him. Now, if that was the case, it really does show that she has never really earned her acting chops, because if that's an attempt at reassurance, well, I'm Pope Francis. More likely, it wasn't staged. And instead, what we're witnessing is a real interaction between the two. On that basis, what does it tell us? As always, as I have explained to you and taught you, you go to the evidence of what you see and you look at it through the relevant prism of who the individual is. With Harry, we know that he's the victim of a narcissist, and he very much looks like one here. Where is the playboy prince that was slamming back the Jaeger bombs and running around wafting his dick everywhere? Instead, head bowed, browbeaten, downtrodden, defeated. He looks a real resigned character, short on confidence. Moreover, very much in the grip of the individual that is sat beside him. The contrast between the two is enormous. As always, he looks a little bit crumpled, as if the iron is missing and the press has been absent from wherever he happens to be staying. He stares downwards, looking like the weight of the world is on his shoulders, tired, perhaps even exhausted. Now, in part, some will say this was as a consequence of the the travel and the fact of the wanting the games to go well. And of course, we've seen other footage where he was very much enjoying himself, talking to the various servicemen and women. And he certainly enjoyed himself riding around in the Land Rover Defender, as I mentioned in an earlier video. But here, this encapsulates an individual that is browbeaten. Whereas you contrast that with the appearance of Harry's wife. She sits there, leaning back, confident. First of all, we note there is the grip of doom. That hand placed upon his. It's meant to be done, of course, as a show of apparent reassurance, but it isn't. It's a physical assertion of control over him. He's sat next to her, which means he's on the radar, and also she is aware, or rather her narcissism is aware of all the other people that sat around and the potential for there being coverage. Her ability to know through her narcissism about coverage is testament to the fact that she always manages to seek out and find the camera, staring straight down the lens as we've seen in parts past him. Here, Harry's on the radar, and as the intimate partner primary source, he's the most important person that has to be kept under control. And he is kept under control with the grip of doom. It isn't a natural holding of hands. It's forced, awkward. It's almost the case of Harry is almost clinging on for dear life, but rather she's keeping him in his place. You sit there, good boy, and do as you're told, is effectively what's being signalled. Her pose is one of confidence. There's no threat to control in this moment. She's well fueled. She sits there as the abominable snowman. The coat appears to have returned, or perhaps hadn't yet made its way to coat woman. And of course, we also see the smirk. That satisfied, self-satisfied, smug smirk that her narcissism isn't able to keep at bay. The reason that you're able to see that is as a consequence of the fact that she is well-fueled, that she's in control. And you see, as she pushes her hand down, keeping him in place, appearing to give a little shake of the hands as if to say, "It's okay, I care about you." But of course, to the untrained eye, that is what an uneducated observer might think. But for you, knowing through the lens of narcissism through which she operates, that is the assertion of control over him. And as she looks at him, her eyes are filled with glee. He's under control. The mouth is fixed in a way of the smirk, which denotes that there's no threat to control, that he's under control, and she's receiving the fuel. It's almost as if inside that mind she'd be thinking, as ever, it was all about me. It's been a triumph for me, and you would do well to sit there like a good boy and do as you're told. Her smugness radiates from her. The narcissist smirk, which I've explained in parts past him, is evident. Remember, the smirk is different for her as a mid-range narcissist. If you want to understand fully what's going on in regard to that, please watch my video, The Narcissist Smirk. But what we see here is Harry's wife in complete control of Harry, and her narcissism makes no pretense of asserting that control physically, looking on him, even when he's dejected. There's no arm around his shoulder. There's no, "Are you okay, darling?" There's no leaning in. She's not even able to create the appearance of concern on her face. Why? Her narcissism deems that it's not appropriate. Only when it's necessary will it play the imitation game and mimic the appropriate facial expression of concern and compassion, which as a mid-range narcissist she is able to do. But her narcissism determines that it's unnecessary here. Why is that? Well, as I have explained to you before, narcissism operates in an economy setting. It will only do what is necessary to get to the prime aims, and will avoid, as far as possible, doing any more than that. This is what we see here. He's under control, so she doesn't have to demonstrate compassion, or at least the mimicry of compassion, to get that control. And it would appear that in that brief second or two that the footage shows, her narcissism has broken out from beyond the facade to show the smirk of contentment that's exhibited as a consequence of the fuel received and him being under control. She doesn't mimic compassion, concern. Her narcissism deems it surplus to requirements, and instead, the fueled, in-control Smirk makes its appearance instead. This short piece of footage is instrumental in demonstrating just how much Harry is in the sustained devaluation and the toll that it takes upon him. Not only in terms of him looking down at heel and dejected and exhausted, but moreover, in her presence, he has been cowed into submission. The fiery redhead has been doused. The spunky soldier who popped off to Afghanistan is there, kept under control, browbeaten, almost about to tug his forelock. Yes, ma'am, no, ma'am, 3 bags full, ma'am. This is what has become of him. The application of the sustained devaluation over and over again has put him in this situation where he is now so submissive. And it's little wonder that he engages in behaviours that attract so much criticism, because he simply does what she orders. I mean,